This is episode 4 of Building in the Trenches podcast. We are having a fantastic time and really excited to walk you through what we've been up to. David, how's everything going on your end?
Yeah, pretty good. I was telling Sam, I think maybe was it 2 days ago, that I'm pivoting away to actually looking into acquisition. So we're going to deep dive on that, go over our weeks, keeping ourselves accountable, talk about the current news, see what's going on, and then, have a wonderful time here.
Yeah, and on my end, things have changed a little bit as well. I have taken a few sales calls on the B2B aspect, and I have some things to share with you guys in terms of progression of the companies, where the directionality is going, but today is all about you trenches right here. I mean, we're gonna have a great time, give you guys some business ideas, look at the news that we're seeing nowadays, what's been happening in, tech, like entrepreneurship in general, and most of all, our goal here is to provide you with tidbits and just day-to-day ideas and things that you guys need in order to build an amazing company. So overall, David, let's go ahead and get started with your weeks.
Sure.
Some very exciting stuff from what I remember.
Yeah, so right now, me and my business partner, Ming is his name. Hopefully we'll get him in the pod as well as we kind of continue on these weekly progressions. But essentially we're pivoting not only from starting to build out the CRM from scratch. I think last week I showed you like a Versal, but we realized when doing email campaigns, from the copywriting lessons, realized that it's going to be very difficult for us to kind of scale from 0 to 1. So instead, why don't we just start from 1 and then scale that? So it's called acquisition entrepreneurship. That's kind of like what the term. Sarah Moore, I think we could kind of deep dive a little bit about what she's done. She apparently swifted through, I think, 40,000 deals within a year. Yeah. She had 50 unpaid interns going into the Harvard library, and she was giving the opportunity of, you get private equity experience with me, and she actually provided the details, got them on the sales calls, and potentially talking with like these business owners, literally.
So Sarah Moore, if you guys don't know, is the CEO of eggcartons.com. The woman owns the largest business that provides egg cartons throughout the United States, which is the most insane business ever.
And what's crazy is that eggcartons.com, majority of this its actual customer base is actually B2B. And so they have like clients like Boeing, they have SpaceX, etc., etc. So they do not only like egg cartons, but I believe they're really big in packaging. And one of the cool things is that they weren't really focused entirely on a B2C side, but more so B2B.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, it was pretty amazing that Sarah Moore was able to, become a Harvard graduate. Did she actually end up going to Harvard, or what was that?
So she did graduate from Harvard MBA, and then utilizing those credentials, she gave opportunity to potential interns that they could get private equity experience by, finding due diligence and actually getting in contact with the CEOs.
Yeah.
So she found a lot of these contacts on Craigslist. And so, I mean, for the trenchers, I think one insight is like, if you're trying to look for potential like interns, there's different sources. Like now there's like Handshake, there's actually going into the clubs, but Craigslist, out of all places, I'm sure you could find people maybe even on Nextdoor for all I know. So there's these really creative ways, and how she built out databases was she utilized a DB, I think it's called DB Huber, which essentially it's like a database of all like small businesses, and she would even fax herself like with a t-shirt that says, I want to buy your business, and she would fax it across all of the United States. But again, it's like 40,000 reach outs to eventually find that one. And keep in mind, she didn't disclose the revenue. I'm sure it's doing like extremely well, but she did state to Sean Puri, who was like the host of MFM, My First Million, that it's doing under 50 million. So you already know it's like a baller move if like she's saying, oh, we're doing under 50 million. So very close within that range. So that's kind of like what we're learning. We have like a target SDE, which is seller's discretionary earning, that we're looking for, which is around $200,000. And we're planning on investing around $100K to deploy. We have some talks that we signed some NDAs literally yesterday, and I'm in continuous talks with a potential acquisition. But obviously there's so much to learn in this space, not only accounting, due diligence, what growth acquisition skill sets are we going to be bringing to the table for hopefully growing this at a conservative base of like 10%. So
yeah, I mean, that's actually very interesting, and I was actually in the space myself, the trenchers. Yeah. So I think
we could actually, I think for the trenchers, like you could maybe talk a little bit about the SEO agency, essentially, right?
Yeah, so it was a web design agency. I basically went on acquire.com, did some due diligence, and basically, you know, there was a web design agency making about $100,000.
Wow.
A year actually, so it was like, you know, 10 to 12,000 per month, and yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting a great deal. You know, I reached out to the guy, and everything did look good in terms of my due diligence. There was, you know, like, you know, proof from Stripe, which automatically gets attached into Acquire. So on my end, I was just like, hey, you know, I've kind of done all the research. It seems like, you know, this company's legit. But yeah, towards the end, after, you know, it was a smaller purchase, and after I was able to, you know, just put down cash, I ended up realizing that a lot of the, actually 2-3 months in, as I'm getting onboarded by this guy, I ended up realizing that I think I just got scammed because because a lot of those the customers that were in the Stripe account, it seemed like, you know, the guy just knew how to create fake profiles.
That's so wild.
And yeah, it's just, but again, you wouldn't really, I mean, Stripe is such like a, you know, higher end thing. It's just,
Right.
you kind of like think
Right.
that, you know, it's all good. But a lot of those people, when you look at their emails, again, they weren't really real people. I'm not exactly sure how he even, like, you know, faked an entire like Stripe account, but
That reminds me so close of the JP Morgan story. You know the JP Morgan story?
I don't.
So there's like this girl, I forgot what her name was, but she forged an email with, I think she collaborated with her professor to create fake emails acting as like customers.
Yeah.
And JP Morgan bought it, and like for hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe she got bought out by JP Morgan. And then JP Morgan, when reaching out to these potential student customers, figured out that, oh my God, these are fake emails. And she's,
Yeah.
I believe she's like in a lawsuit right now.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it wasn't even the money after a certain while. It was just like how much time I ended up having to put into
The
it.
opportunity cost was like just not worth it.
It was like 6 months, and I kind of held off on, you know, the business that I'm currently like working on because
Right.
I wasn't focused on growth on that, and I was
Right.
like, all right, I need to get like, you know. I mean, it wasn't a substantial sum. It was like, you know, $20,000, but $20,000 is $20,000. You know,
Right.
it sucks. It still hurts.
Yeah.
But I think overall, it was just, you know, it was a pretty unfortunate situation. But what it taught me for acquisition entrepreneurship was, number one, do some great due diligence. And even though things look right, I would just hire, you know, some external agency to do the due diligence. And it was like, I mean, I should have just been okay to like just pay $1,000 just for, you know, due diligence,
Right.
and rather than, you know, me just, you know, saving that 1,000 and then losing 20.
Right.
But yeah, overall, so that was a great learning experience. But, you know, that's why, you know, as David is doing it, I'm you know, pretty excited to go through this journey again, because
sure.
I've been very excited about acquisition entrepreneurship as well. And again, if I wasn't busy right now and I had like more free time, that's exactly what I would be doing.
No, 100%. I think one of the cool things is we're seeing around 11,000 people that are retiring on a daily basis, and 90% of the economy is actually run by small businesses. And what's even crazy is that I believe like to get a company over $1 million in revenue, it's a fraction. I believe there's like less than 20,000 companies in the United States that's doing that. So to be able to actually acquire something that has already been giving cash flow for a potential owner already, and where we could come in and then hopefully scale that, I think that in itself is a true skill, but also a great learning experience, whether it pans out good or not. You know, who knows, maybe I'll go through the due diligence and then it turns out that, you know, like maybe the customers are not as sticky as I thought or whatnot. But I think all of this is still going to be kind of building stops, and I'm going to learn a lot. So that's what I'm most excited about.
And I think it's just in general for most people, acquisition entrepreneurship is a better route than entrepreneurship in general, because
sure.
you're like, it's like a cheat code.
It is.
It's already like, you know, things are built out. If you do have a little bit of money, like, I think it is worth it just to invest that and like go be like 5 years ahead.
Right.
And at the end, you still have some equity, you know, within the business that you're technically able to sell to someone else
That's such a
after
great
eating
point.
the cash flow.
That's such a great point, what Sam just mentioned, which is the equity aspect. So there's multiple ways of actually growing and like earning money from acquisition entrepreneurship. One is just a pure cash flow that you get just off the get-go. Because you're literally, what buying the businesses, you're buying the cash flow, you know, and what these business brokers are doing is like, oh, we you have potential to make money from acquiring this. Do you want it? Yes or no? So obviously that's why due diligence is so important, because you're buying the future cash flows, and if the customers are not legit as like it turned out to be, those contracts are essentially worthless. So that's one way. Another way is equity. So let's say for example, you buy something and then you're able to grow it even 10%. That multiple gets attached to the current value of the company. So for example, if it's 100K but you grow it to 110,000, if you grow that, let's say the exit multiple is like 2x, that's like it adds leverage to your exit potential, which is super exciting. And then also third but not least, it's like your work is like you're just not slaving away like in a 9 to 5, but essentially like you're actually building equity, which is just like true meaning, like whatever you're doing, like you're fully responsible for everything, which is also scary, but very rewarding if you find something that's like you're truly passionate and also want to grow for that potential exit.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's just, you're providing some sort of value to the world, and there's some sort of predictability into a machine, and someone's just going to buy the machine eventually in the future for a multiple, just because they think they're able to make the machine better, just to do that. So that's kind of why, like, it is better, no matter, how, like, if you have a great job. Entrepreneurship is still better just because you're not starting from zero again. You have something like,
product market fit, like off the get-go.
Yeah. And you also have something that, you're building equity in, which is, the business itself.
Yeah. And what's so interesting is like, let's say, for example, you buy a house usually historically, if you look at the past like 20 years, it's maybe appreciated 3% or so, which is like, like very like close to inflation. But I'm sure if you account for that, maybe it's still around 3%. Considering that, but still, if you compare that to acquiring something, not only are you getting you're getting, for example, let's do like a basic example of you're buying a company that's worth $1 million, right? You do 10% and then you finance the rest at 90%. That 90%, every time you're paying back the bank, of course with some interest as well, but you're also getting equity like off the get-go.
Yeah.
So you're not like, you're getting way more, especially if you do the right due diligence and purchase a good cash flowing, company, hopefully, then the returns are just astronomical compared to buying a house.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny. I always wonder, I'm like, I don't understand why people are just, buying houses, because they're horrible investments.
Yeah, I think it's just for the comfort level. Like you see like the houses, it's just like the comfort level, being able to host. And I think it's just like the security of mind. Cause like, I mean, if you look at the real estate market in certain markets, I'm sure it like has outpaced like in, let's say even the index maybe in certain markets, right?
Yeah. But again, it's just, I think overall, like, just imagine if like people are like, hey, instead of the house, I'm just gonna buy a business instead, because I'm gonna get a higher return. I'm just gonna rent.
Yeah.
Like, because if you do the math, it makes sense.
100%.
But I think it's just, but people are like, oh my god, I'm just like saving money this way. Like, it's just, it doesn't really, unfortunately, it doesn't really make sense to like most people.
Yeah.
Just because it's just such an elementary like thing that everyone thinks about, like, oh, my house is my equity. House is horrible.
Real estate has been like in history. We fight over land, we fight over houses. So I think this is why like it's so embedded psychologically of like you want something of your own that you could live in, and it's a very tangible asset. Whereas like a business, like you actually have to either hire someone, operate it, and that could be such a headache, which in itself is like potential opportunity where you could come in. And the fact that you already have existing customer base, you could add innovation of like, upselling, potentially kind of testing out, obviously once you learn the operations and how everything flows.
Actually, talking about acquisition entrepreneurship, do you know much about Cody Sanchez?
Cody Sanchez, yeah, she's like the Main Street person, right? She's selling like talking about laundromats and like all these kind of side hustles that's boring.
So she was actually in private equity for 10, 12 years.
I thought she was like a salesperson at private equity. I don't think she was like
but I think she was like, kind of hanging around, that crowd. So that's why she's like, hey, like my like ideology is that, hey, acquisition entrepreneurship is like way better. Blah, blah. And she has, gone pretty viral. Just on social media, just by talking about acquisition entrepreneurship. So yeah, I think overall, that's in, if you want to watch a few of her videos, that could be interesting as well.
No, for sure. I think it's very like entry level of like, I mean, I've gone through all the phases, the shiny object syndrome. You see like, oh my gosh, this landscaping company is making 30K per month, but like it's just revenue. And like at the end of the day, the profit, it may be just because the service costs
10%.
Are behind. Yeah, like 10%. It's like not that substantial. So obviously like you see all of these YouTubers and influencers like packaging the new thing, but the gold shovel, I think Levi jeans were like one of the main profiteers because all the people that were shoveling gold needed like some good jeans to wear.
Yeah.
So like the shovelers always make a lot of money. Like, I mean, Nvidia, for example, as well. It's selling like the
chips.
potential of like what AI could potentially do. That's why companies are so over invested into building like data centers with Nvidia, buying these chips. So I definitely agree that there are a lot of potential, but you actually have to go through the grunt work of due diligence, building relationships, and like things that nobody really talks about because it's really boring. But at the end of the day, it will give you a lot of freedom if you obviously go through it and then stick with it for a long enough time to beat out your competition.
Yeah, I mean, actually talking about revenue multiples, I saw this tweet where this guy was like, yeah, like, I just did some math off my like, e-commerce brand. It made $500,000 this month, but I ended up finding out I only made $3,000 in profit.
I don't even know what percent that. That's like literally 1%. Less than 1%. So yeah.
He's like, yeah, like I guess time to get back to work.
So yeah, another lesson. Be aware, buyers be aware. Revenue is not equivalent to profit. Like it's such a elementary math, but people say like, oh my god, 500K per month. Like people think like that's astronomical. But for example, if it's very capital intensive, then your profit's not going to be that much. One of the things I think we also talked about this week was how hard retail was and how apparel industry, because you're literally in the thick of it, like learning about like for example the tariffs. That was whenever we do podcasts, we're always going to bring up tariffs because that's the big hot topic right now. So let's talk a little bit about like how harsh the worst type of businesses kind of to run.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think retail in general is a pretty hard business to run, especially in this market. Just because there's innovation happening, people don't really want to shop in person anymore. Yeah, and I think with e-commerce things are just way easier. People just go up. I think retail shops in general are basically just now showrooms. People go over there, hang out, they touch and feel the product, and then they're gonna order it online because they don't want to hold and carry it back home. And that's why I listen to a lot of e-commerce podcasts, and they're like, hey, we're still investing in retail. It's not because those things make money. It's because people are able to come in, feel, touch the product, then they go back home and then they order it online. So, and they actually see it, a bump in sales if they do increase retail presence. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. So overall, I mean, let's get into my week. I mean, as we're talking about tariffs, my week was interesting. I actually had a couple calls with some B2B clientele who were potentially interested in onboarding on manufacturing side for us. So yeah, long story short, we're going to be doing a white labeled e-commerce clientele. So one of the companies was I think they do stores for lacrosse companies and random schools, and
those are the best because they're so sticky, right?
Yeah, very sticky, very sticky. But they are also seasonal. So yeah, so I think fingers crossed. We're able to onboard these guys either next week or the week after. Sent over the pricing sheet. We sent over the samples. So overall, things are moving pretty fast. I think it's not going to be, a huge needle mover in terms of revenue. It's just probably going to be, an additional, $1,000 in profit, which again, I will take it. $1,000 is $1,000. It's just, it pays for something. Yeah. And it just compounds over time, just in case, there's more growth within their company, which funnels into ours. So we will take it, slow and steady steps. I also the second call that I had was very interesting as well. It was with a VC, and he actually runs a bunch of e-commerce stores for influencers. So there was that. It was a hard call on my end, but just because I don't know, I kind of went in without a lot of preparation, thinking that hey, we're just here hanging out, but I just got attacked in every single way possible, and it was it ended up being a hard call. But towards the end, I found out the main pain point that this VC who runs 63 brands, he is interested in bringing a lot of these brands, the manufacturing of those from China down to here over the next couple of years, just because
of the tariffs.
And I was like, oh my God, like I was on to something.
Right.
Like,
Finally.
I know, finally, like, I just thought I was crazy. People just thought I was just political for no reason. And I was like, I went on a friend's podcast like 2-3 weeks ago, and I was just hammering on the idea, like, hey, manufacturing is coming back home, guys. Like, if you want to build a SaaS in like manufacturing, 3PL in the United States, because, and again, there's companies out here like doing a horrible job. They have horrible UI UXs, and then these companies are making a lot of money.
Right.
I think if
Just for the fact that they're in US, right?
yeah.
Wow.
And also, it's just they have the sales systems that they are able to like provide to the US based companies, and also everyone's going into AI, like consumer, blah
Right.
blah blah. No one's thinking about, hey, I'm going to create vertical SaaS for 3PLs. I'm going
Right.
to create vertical SaaS for printers based in the United States, just because that market is going to grow over the next 2 years.
I'm sure Flexport and like ShipBob, they're so big in 3PL and they're like multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I mean, logistics is one of the hardest things. Like, it's just you don't see it, but like I think it's even more important than AI, just because like every single day your day depends on logistics,
Right.
and if someone's able to build a SaaS within logistics, huge problem. Like the TAM is huge, just because every single person uses it. I mean, even like people who are like, I mean, every single class is kind of using it. So overall, long story short, I actually received an email back from them today.
Nice.
Initially, I was trying to sell them on on-demand printing and decoration, but since we are moving to a bigger warehouse, I did tell him that hey, we are able to potentially do some fulfillment as well, and he's like, hey, you want to give me some pricing on the fulfillment side of things, so maybe we can potentially get started. So gonna figure out the pricing on that end. We don't do any fulfillment just yet, so maybe, just maybe, the business itself on the B2B side is changing.
Yeah.
From not just from like the printing, but we're also going to be doing potential fulfillment.
Which was your goal for this year? Like
Yeah.
Sam's big goal is to continue more on B2B, mainly because the LTV is longer, the churn is less, and just generally like those two are probably the key indicators of growth.
Yeah, and it's just also no 13-year-old is gonna come in and recreate an entire logistical
Right.
department for anyone. Like no one can compete in that. That's kind of like my moat and my advantage within this industry, because I kind of have this thing that I'm able to do. Even people who do it, again, they burn out. They're not able to sustain the growth. And for me, I always say that unfortunately I'm not very smart in terms of the IQ level, but I am a very curious creature, and I can get work done, that's why it's for me. It's just I need to go into industries where not a lot of smart people are going to be,
Right.
just because my IQ is not up there. Like
Right,
I will
right.
always be a mediocre person in building AI.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be the top the top person building in logistics.
Yeah, you
So
want to be competing amongst people like plumbers. I mean, no, we're not throwing shade at any of these industries, but where they're not really integrating technology or avenues where the frontier of technology is kind of being done within the AI sector, whether it be new technology. Just bring a little a percentage of that. Not even 10%, 5%, and you'd be running laps around your competition within the
Yeah.
flooring services industry.
No, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I think the biggest opportunity right now is. A lot of people are like, hey, we're going to create another ChatGPT wrapper. We're going to do
Right.
this, AI agents this, AI agent that. Realistically speaking, the biggest opportunity right now is in the boring stuff, where all the smart people are they're drunk on the AI sauce
Yeah,
right now.
for sure.
They're oh, we're gonna build the next big thing, the next big unicorn. But then while they're building it, they're gonna forget that why they're even doing it. They're
Right.
doing it for financial freedom, and these guys are gonna go high risk, high reward, raise a bunch of money, and give their life away into an idea that probably is not even gonna have the percentage of you making it within that
That's
industry.
such a good point.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember reading a stat of even the best VC, the VC in general, I think 75% or so, it's I know there was a 7 in there somewhere, in the tens, 70% or higher, those companies are not existent after, a given enough long time horizon. So
And 99% actually don't ever bring out the amount that was invested in it.
really?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, we're going back to don't compete with amongst like the Ivy League grads who are, all building like the most flashy things, but what people are actually purchasing, like actually spending, and then going into those sectors. It could be as boring as, HVAC, plumbing. We talked about septic, I think, last week. So these are truly like good business models. And if you are, willing to be passionate about the systems and the operations aspect, or whatever your skill set may be, whether it be accounting, whether it be marketing, like just bringing those skill sets into these industries will provide you with like the so-called like financial freedom if that's your goal, or even like innovation, because you could build on top of those things, whether it be like a certain CRM or like some type of AI tool, whatever it may be, a vertical SaaS, in fact, even in logistics that he was talking about. Like I think you showed me like a vertical SaaS, was it like a 3PL directory that was just printing? It was literally called fulfillment.com, and I was like, they do nothing. It's literally a database.
Yeah, and they started like 3-4 years ago. They're doing like about $5 million every single year. It's just the most insane. I'm like, your profits are like 85% here because you don't do anything here. Yeah. It's just a database business. And it's only happening because the cost per click in order to find a 3PL is just like $45.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
it was also almost the same as lawyers, right?
Yeah,
I was like, wow, that's insane. Mainly because again, LTV is insane for these B2B clients.
But the thing is, lawyers everyone knows about. 3PLs, no one in their mother has ever thought about.
Bob or I didn't even know about them until I kind of learned about the logistics space and how big it was. For example, I was talking to, I think, like one of the sales directors at Flexport, and he was saying that they have so many different services helping anywhere from small businesses ship one product from like Ecuador all the way to like the NA, all the way to helping like B2B clients like all over the world, like shipping things internationally. And he was saying his service contracts on average would range for the SMB side was like a couple $100,000 all the way to a couple million. And those are just like one contract, like one customer. And imagine like how many businesses there are like across the whole world that they're serving. Whenever you buy something on Temu or Amazon or whatever that may be, there's always logistics involved. So that's why he was saying like that if you're able to build something within the logistics space, obviously it's always changing as well based on the government. Like let's say, for example, there's a contract within the US and Mexico of like, hey, we'll give you, a better deals if you're able to use this port. That always changes. So it's kind of like an interesting industry, and for sure a very profitable one, because ship trading and just travel in general has been such a long thing. Like I mean, think about like the spice trades, right? Like the Silk Road days. I mean, it's a really long history of trading, and being able to solve that is a real big pain point.
I mean, what is business, right? It's just you providing other people something that they truly need,
right?
And basically just taking a percentage off, on top of that. And like so many people, like nowadays, the reason any business fails is because they're not providing something that the other person needs or is willing to pay for, and is not a need. That's why, like, businesses fail. So why not just go into businesses that are actually going to survive? And again, you want to ride the trend, as you're talking about the political environments, like, not to be political or anything, but overall, I think everyone and their mother can see that, like, it's just, like, we're manufacturing is coming to America. Like, it just, like, what are tariffs? I mean, it was literally in the news. Like, okay, if you've done any econ class, like, not even college, if you've just gone to high school and paid a little bit of attention in, like, econ, it's literally like, what are tariffs? Okay, easy. Like, that just means that, we're out competing manufacturing outside the United States and increasing the GDP of our area, increasing more jobs within the country just to stimulate the economy a little bit more and bringing manufacturing in-house. So overall, again, you always say, hey, you want to ride the trend, you want to ride the wave, and that's exactly why you want to be building in stuff that, number one, is boring, so there's not that much competition. Number two, it has some sort of tailwind associated with that. And as you were saying, just being in like competing with Ivy League people. Yeah, I mean, again, we're not dumb people. He went to UCLA, I went to UC Davis, but I think we're smart enough to realize that we're not gonna compete with the Harvard grads. And even though we're pretty smart, we're a lot better than like state school people or just community college people. No shade if you are one of those, but yeah, maybe a little bit of shade. But yeah, I think overall, I think there's so much opportunity, like today in general, within like just Marcus, and that's exactly why we're going. I mean, there's opportunity in the trend that people are like retiring more, and that's the one thing that you've been super passionate about.
Yeah,
like,
the whole time, ever since I met Sam, I was like, I'm in home care, I'm in like the senior niche, because we do believe, like I took healthcare economics course, and this is what like my mind was appealed. The fact that the biggest job, the BLS actually shows you a report on the most like top 10 jobs within by 2030, and we're gonna have a shortage of 275,000 nurses, which is projected. And that's like the third, best, top, fastest growing like niche. So I mean, if you're looking for a W2, nurses are great because there's so many people who's gonna be aging at home that are gonna require nurses to come either in there or even like skilled nursing facility where they need nurses because our retention is so high because the generation's culture is a little bit different. They're working to live, not like living to work. If that makes sense. I think our older generation just lived to work. Like the 16-hour work days in the Industrial Revolution was so normal. That's like that's just how life was. But now we have so much freedom, and like we have to look at where things are going, where the hockey puck is going, and then hopefully being there so that we could hopefully catch the wave as it's rising. So that's the space that I'm truly passionate about, because I do believe the world is changing, especially the US is going more towards preventive care rather than just giving like opioids and like giving just prescription drugs, which is very, very costly. For example, most people usually go to hospitals and they figure out that all of their it's usually lifestyle diseases that they could have prevented by doing preventive medicine of like just taking care of themselves. America has like, I think it was like 43% of Americans are obese. And obviously, like, because we're in Western, like, coastal cities where there's like a little less obesity, if I go to the South, like, our, objective is very skewed. But if we look at the big scheme of things, if we build something like important, very, very chubby. I mean, in fact, I go to Disneyland and I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's like a guy that's like wearing like a backpack with like beer in the back, and then he couldn't even hold his like children's like hand because on one hand he had a churro and on another he had a beer. He couldn't even take care of his children, and that's like normal, across the United States. So yeah,
and I do believe that. So one of the things from the news is that I think Robert F. Kennedy, him taking out dyes.
Yeah. That was recent, right?
Yeah.
It was like red dyes because. Yeah. This is another thing about marketing. It was like people find things like that's very flashy, and that was the hook, in a way. If we think about episode 3, it was like we talked about the AIDA principle. What's the attention here? Is that nobody's gonna look at something that's like brown or gray. That's gonna bore people. So all of these companies were like optimized for red lights, so red dye was very, very common. Yeah, and it turns out like a fraction, like it actually does harm to
it's cancerous. Right? It's cancerous. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you say something about colors, is because we always think of like some of these colors as messing up with their minds,
right?
For physical stuff. But have you ever observed that your apps on your phone,
right?
All those colors are designed for you to click on them.
Really,
it's insane. So that's why a lot of people just gray out their screen.
That's
just to make sure. And if you do, you're gonna see the usage rate of you using those apps.
Yeah,
like drastically different, just because those colors are not that inviting.
The cue is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all those are cues, so it's just like you wouldn't even think about that. Hey, those are just icons,
right? Because when you look at the color, we're like automatically just already priming ourselves to get the reward.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, look at the red YouTube.
I know.
Off the get go, and you're just seeing dopamine. But if you just grayscale it, then you're like, everything kind of looks the same. I probably should do like the thing I need to do.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And
it's
so interesting. And it doesn't like reward your mind the same as well, because I mean, you have Instagram on your phone,
right?
Like, so you see pictures in like grayscale. It's not gonna like reward your brain the same type of way. So I just don't even want to be in it.
That's so
it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite interesting. So let's go ahead and let me give you guys a quick business of this podcast. And I'm not. I mean, it's a little inappropriate one, but my friend did tell me about that. So there's this website called bedpage.com.
All right, what's bedpage.com?
Bedpage.com is basically Craigslist, but for escorts.
Okay.
And apparently they're doing $1.1 million per month in revenue.
Per month?
Per month. It's insane. And it's a marketplace. That means there's not much overhead.
That's wild.
1.1 million. I mean, like if their costs are $100K,
right.
and if you go on their website, Horrible website. It looks like it's from the 1990s.
Oh, wow.
So they're probably printing like $1 million.
Yeah.
Every like so $12 million, like, you know, without really doing any work, just because it's a marketplace and, you know, like people are into that.
Right.
So pretty insane. Again, if I do have a friend who's like, you know, interested in degenerate ideas, and he brought me this idea, and he was just like, hey, you know, I would love to build this with you. And I was like, yeah, I apologize, you know, I just don't want to be a part of this. But yeah, overall, like when he told me the revenue, he's like, do you know how much revenue they're doing? And I was like,
Right.
oh, how much? And I was like, yeah, that is pretty insane. That, you know, how this thing like works. And this is like a weird niche of the day. Like,
Right.
like, you know, we did say that, you know, in the podcast, we're going to give random like businesses
For
that
sure,
we
for
think are interesting. And
So one thing, I mean, escorts, talking about escorts, I think it's like 3 out of the top 10 websites are usually all related to the adult industry. You know, if you know what we're talking, kind of alluding to. I think like number 1 through 5, like, even like there was a lot of those adult content websites
Yeah.
on there, like with billions and billions of views on a monthly basis.
yeah, it's funny. I think Pornhub had more like
think that was
views.
ranked number 1, right?
Number 1. Like even
Past Google?
You passed Google.
Yeah.
It was like, it's pretty insane.
Because it's like a drug, you know, like what are people addicted to? It's usually like sex, porn, video games, alcohol. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a lot more. Social media now these days, but again, like these are so addicting.
Cheap dopamine.
Yeah, cheap dopamine. I mean, I myself like I can attest, like it is very addictive. So that's why it does so much in views, and then obviously those views convert to potential like ad targets and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think it's just living in today's society within, you know, like everyone has shorter attention spans, and that's
yeah.
why, like, you know, just when TikTok came in, it literally took
destroyed.
over.
Yeah, it literally destroyed people's attention span.
Yeah, and mine as well. Like, you know, I wasn't even on it that much, but it's just, you know, it just kind of feels like mine's destroyed.
Yeah, the researchers are literally designing these algorithms to make it like so optimized towards your personal taste and what you might like not even know about yourself, of like your potential other interests based on other users. So it's like you really have to be aware and like reflect, because if not, you're just going to be scrolling. Like,
So one other thing, David, you told me something very interesting about yourself last night. Actually, it was about the scripts that you were running
right.
on Tinder and Hinge.
okay, so there was. Okay, so we'll just close out this little chat with a little something personal. So there's algorithms that you could run. I was running a Python script on Selenium, to be exactly precise, where I would be auto swiping while I'm asleep, because I didn't want to like actually, you know, do the swiping thing myself, and I wanted to maximize my chances. So I was on Tinder just to kind of see, like, running like a test experiment of like how well optimized like my profile is, and you know what my elo is kind of looking like. But I was telling Sam that this algorithm is designed where if a really hot, attractive person who gets a lot of matches, you know, swipes right on you, then you kind of get more elo against the other competitors, so that you're going to be having more chances of like, you know, meeting around other hot people. So that's kind of how it works. Learned a lot from it. It wasn't really that much of a success. I don't think I had like a lot of dog pictures, like crazy gym photos, lots of pictures with friends. Those are all things that you could, you know, kind of optimize, especially because people are visual, like we're social, but also visual creatures, especially on the app, because that's all you have to base off of. But personally, I don't think like online dating in itself is like the best way, albeit a lot of people don't have time with, you know, just working all the time. So that is like, I think, how 30% of people meet these days. I think Bumble CEO was talking about how they're gonna have AI chatbot talk with another AI chatbot, which is I just think that's just like so dystopian. But the fact that that's happening in real life just kind of shows you like, yeah, I mean, that's just where we're at.
I mean, let's just chat a little bit more about that, because that's very interesting.
Okay.
Like, so basically, you have your own AI agent that, you know, you export your brain into.
Exactly.
And then
like, put your interests and pictures.
So they're basically in a sandbox environment where you're talking to someone else's brained brain with an AI agent,
Right.
and then try to find like some
Potential chemistry or
commonalities. This is
connection.
beautiful.
Yeah?
I think it's gonna work out. This is amazing.
Yeah?
Like, I would for sure do it, because I'm saving so much time. Like, I don't like talking to people.
That's the value that the Bumble CEO was kind of highlighting, of like, oh, you're gonna be making more chemistry. But at the same time, I feel like you see so many couples who just like wouldn't, like, that has been so opposite spectrums of whether it be class, whether it be like just experiences that still make it work because of like the differences and the beauty of it.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically speaking, why do you think there's a 50% divorce rate?
That is true.
Because human error is always going to be higher than like an AI agent.
Oh, for
error.
sure.
So what I'm wondering is that, let's say, if everyone starts meeting using AI agents where you have exported brains into your agent,
right,
and then you're having so many different conversations,
right,
in a sandbox environment, would the divorce rate decrease drastically?
Mm-hmm. That is a really interesting case study. I mean, we probably wouldn't know because we haven't ran this test of like divorce rate, because you only know when it actually breaks up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it probably needs a long enough time horizon to actually test this out. But it would be very interesting to see, maybe you could do like a mice study of like potential, like based on their characteristics, they have an agent like based on the profile, and then see if they can match, and then run a time horizon scale.
I mean, or an AI agent study. So let's say basically you export your brain, and what if you're able to your agent is talking to another person's brain agent, and they run like 50 different lifetimes.
Right.
Like
a simulation.
A simulation, yeah. Before, in a sandbox environment, of course.
Right.
So by the end, you basically feel so connected to the other person because you've run like 50 different lifetimes.
That is so insane. That sounds like a Black Mirror episode that we're just like talking about. But who knows? Maybe that's where we're headed. But yeah, I mean, over 30% of the relationships that's happening in our current generation is literally through online, which is so insane. Because if we think about our parents, they met like at work. Or go to work, meet a girl, and then just you're stuck together for the eternity of your life. But these days you have so many different choices, which I think could be a little like beneficial, but at the same time a little harmful as well. Yeah. Because of like the hookup culture and like all of the side externalities that happen. It kind of like reminds me of like how in California we legalized weed in a way, and then that like had a lot of external factors that wasn't really like. For example, like the smell, I forgot, there's like externalities that we didn't really consider that happened.
What were they?
I'm just thinking about like, for example, like dispensaries or prices just getting surged up. Like the black market, I think like it kind of grew. I
think black market actually like,
Did it decrease?
Yeah, it decreased. It blew up because it's just if people are able to go to a nice dispensary, have an actual experience, they're not going to go to some sketchy like black market guy's house just to pick this up.
Yeah.
And I think overall that also like normalizing it also decreased the consumption somehow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe it could just be like economic time or just time in general, but if you go into Google Trends, it actually peaked in like 2020, 2021.
Got it.
And it has been on a downfall since then.
Wow. So what's the new big thing? Do we talk about Zins? I don't think we talked about Zins last
We have not, yeah. So let's go ahead.
So yeah, I was telling Sam, like one of the biggest, stock of the weekend, let's say, was Morris. They literally was a tobacco company, and they saw that they were declining sales because you can't advertise tobacco like back in the days where you see like race cars that was getting sponsored by Marlboro and whatnot. But these days, Zyn is like the new hot thing. Yeah. So that's why they saw like a 5% increase just in a day, because they saw that like the orders shipped was like over 50% or so from like year over year. So it's growing at a really, really fast pace.
So actually, let me tell you about something else in this space.
Okay.
So I was, how like this is a business idea for the trenchers, by the way.
We're just shooting the stuff right now. Some of these are actionable, but most of these are we're just shooting the stuff. Like outside the podcast, this is literally how we conversate.
Yeah. So overall, so I mean, as you know, like I do have a Semrush subscription. So I was randomly browsing, some random ideas over there, and I saw that there was huge demand for a toothpick, like a Zyn-like toothpick.
No way.
So something that gives you some sort of high. I've only like tried Zyn like once, so I'm not exactly very well versed in like how it truly makes you feel. But like you can basically just put that toothpick in, and it kind of gives you like that same high.
Gosh.
And people are buying that. So apparently, there's a company out there that
has toothpick Zins.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just, and it's not that hard to rank for. So if you're looking for a new product, this is a great product for you if you can figure out manufacturing and supply chain and everything. I think, I mean, it's something that's addictive, right? I mean, your LTVs is like, forever.
Forever.
Someone picks you
Selling
one
a drug.
time.
You're literally selling a drug that's
Yeah.
very addictive. So I mean, that's diabolical. That's a thing. But I mean, the toothpick idea is so interesting because I've seen people like, especially like southern like Texas people,
Yep.
that has like a toothpick, like kind of like
That's the target market.
do.
And
That's
they also
what-
like chewing tobacco. So it's basically
Oh
combining
my
two different
gosh.
things.
Yeah.
And like, I think, I mean, that's something.
It has legs.
It has legs. And the cost of manufacturing is not
So
that
cheap,
much.
I bet.
Yeah.
It's a toothpick.
Uh-huh.
How bad could a toothpick like wrapped around Zyn flavors or whatever
And
the
it
high?
doesn't smell. So
Oh,
you can
wow.
always have that toothpick even at work.
Wow, without anyone knowing.
Yeah, without anyone knowing.
That is insane.
And like, like it's just, you kind of chew it pretty
Right,
quickly.
right.
So you just have
Dissolve
a
it
pack.
in a way.
And, yeah, you just churn through like 1 or 2 packs a day.
The recurring revenue on this aspect is also probably insane as well.
I know.
Just as good as Ozempic, actually.
I know. So yeah, if you ever wanna, so just tidbit of the day, if you're building something, just make sure it's addictive. Just because it's impossible to lose if there's something that is addictive and you are, building a brand within it. And overall, if it's some sort of media, company, just make sure it is also, triggering some sort of like dopamine inside of you, and it's creating some sort of like that cult feeling. I mean, as we all know, Brian Johnson, he basically created a cult, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful job.
I think his supplement company now does like around 100 million in revenue, or was it 100 million?
Yeah. I think he got to like 100 million valuation in like 3 weeks or something.
That is so insane.
So he could have sold it 100 out of vaporware. This
Right.
dude just creates $100 million company.
But of course, this was like I think 3 years in the making or so. right?
Yeah, so it was, actually, I think only about a year of him actually making content. But the way that he created content, I mean, he just put in. I'm assuming he just paid a lot of consultants just to make
Right.
sure that he does blow up, and
Right.
it was worth the investment. So I do think it is worth investing in YouTube consultants or like short form consultants.
Right. It could pay off as long as you have like a really good niche or like target that you're targeting. I think one of the things, like I was a big Brian Johnson fan because I was really worried about longevity. I didn't know like how bad not sleeping was, for example. Like he just hammers in sleep, posture, taking not eating seed oils, just like these very fundamental things we don't really learn about in school, but
Yeah.
he packages it in a very 80-20 Pareto principle way of like talking about power loss, where it's like very easy hitting,
Yeah.
dopamine hitting, especially in this current environment.
I
And
know.
the trend between going from all like seed oils, which is like your fast food, all the way to now like where people are becoming more health conscious. So like you see a lot of protein brands or a lot of companies just showing out their protein label. I think RX Bar was kind of like the pioneer in that, but we see that a lot now of people becoming more conscious of their health choices. Like, I mean, a few weeks ago, me and Sam were just like shooting the stuff, and we're just talking about how polyester, for example, people were wearing cotton underwear because polyester apparently they did a dog study of like ejaculating their sperm. The sperm count actually decreased when they were wearing polyester compared to cotton. So
Oh man!
Yeah.
you got me excited about something else that we're gonna
what?
talk about before we go.
okay, let's
It's
do it.
gonna be about the sperm race.
okay, let's. So, yeah.
So
Let's cue it up.
Yeah, so basically, I believe it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. There in LA, there was a sperm race from this guy who just basically started at UCLA versus USC.
Tapping into an existing rivalry, which is very smart for marketing.
Yeah, and basically, me and David were watching some sperm highlights, which does not sound inappropriate at all. But yeah, we were as we were watching those highlights, we were like, oh my god, we're pretty invested in how
Right.
good this sperm is doing.
Right.
And I think overall, whoever did that, I mean, it was some VC that gave this kid money.
Yeah, it was.
That's insane. So basically, overall, it's just tapping into the idea that sperm count is decreasing, you basically just need to
Right.
bring awareness that hey, your sperm sucks. Like we need to make sure that we're increasing that. So I think that's something that I guarantee they're probably gonna make some sort of like supplement brand or some sort of like like
For sure.
routine
For sure.
to do that. And that was like just a great PR for them. So I think that was quite interesting as well.
For sure. And then just to close this off, I think we also talked about Cluely. You were a big fan of Cluely. You
Yeah.
remember Cluely? So to cue it up, Roy Lee, he was a Harvard he got accepted to Harvard essentially, but he went on a field trip. He did something like a little shady, and then it got rescinded. And so he went to the community college. I know Sam was shading the community college people. I'm with you, college people, because you're some cracked people in there. Roy Lee was one of them. He got into what's this called, Columbia, and then he created this code software called Interview. I think it was called Interview Hacker or something.
Yeah.
Excuse me if I mispronounced the name, but essentially what it does is it does lead code problems on behalf of you. So, for example, if you're walking in through an interview, lead code is like the number one way of literally getting like jobs at top fan companies. And he got offers from like Amazon and whatnot. And Amazon was telling like the university itself, Columbia, is like, hey, dude, like we caught this guy cheating. Like this is not cool. And then they kicked him out essentially. Long story short. And now he's building. He's built a personal brand off going viral off that to build Cluey, which is like cheat on everything. And he was going for maximum PR and virality. So he intentionally said cheat on everything because that's a very like shocking thing to hear of like, what do you mean by that? Like cheat on everything. And even the video in itself was like, you know, him like trying to look, he was young, but he was trying to like pose a little bit older to like an older lady. And that was kind of like the PR play. And we're kind of interested in seeing like, you know, where things are teetering between like the moral and ethical line of like, when is it right? Like if I'm being fooled, like is that cheating or is that just like just immoral? That's just wrong.
So it just kind of like goes to show that most of the companies nowadays, they're basically just PR companies, and like if you're able to absorb.
Be good at like media.
So.
I mean, we're still continuing on the copywriting. We didn't forget you guys about it, but we're still like a lot of stuff have been on the week, so we're gonna still continue giving you updates once we finish Neville Medora's course. But again, like you need to understand how to speak in a very attention-grabbing way, because it's like as Sam alluded to, so many things are GPT wrappers, and it's churning like insanely. Like as technology cost decreases, it's gonna be easier and easier to produce. So.
It's a commodity now.
Yeah, it's almost a commodity.
It's going to be a commodity. In the next 5 years, most of these GPT wrappers are not going to be worth anything.
For sure.
No one's going to buy them.
They're one feature or one update away from their business model just crashing.
Yeah. And you want to build on something that is going to stay long term, because compound interest is the thing. One small thing before we go. I know we were talking about cheating.
Yeah.
So remember there was a guy who like I think stole like $250 million, and then he was spending a bunch on like LA and Miami clubs.
I remember
the Asian guy.
Yeah, so he did social engineering. I forgot what his name was. Something Lamb. Kevin Lamb, was it?
Yeah.
Was it Kevin Lamb?
So basically, he was young, and of course, you steal $250 million in crypto.
Right.
You're gonna be in jail for a while.
Yeah.
I guess he's not gonna be in jail.
No way.
Yep. He gets 2 years probation.
That's it.
Guess. What do you think happened right there?
Nothing. Like 2 years.
Yeah. I guarantee he got hired in the FBI.
No way.
They're like, hey, you're kind of smart.
Right.
Smart to steal $250 million.
Right.
How about you help us catch these guys?
Wow. That's a theory, right? That's a theory.
Yeah, of course that's a theory, because we're not gonna know. But I mean, guarantee. How do you just go from like going to like a 30-year sentence to like 2 years probation?
That's a huge criminal charge.
Yeah.
Anything over 250 is that like a felony?
Yeah. No, that's a huge felony. Like the guy was like.
What was the sentencing? Do you know? Do you remember? 20 years or?
Yeah, I think it was 35.
And it got cut down to 2.
Because hey, he got a job. Yeah, like hey, come work with us. Come work with us. Come help us out.
Right.
So overall, it's
that
just
is so insane. So more news for you guys. If you guys are great at social engineering and you want to slap on the wrist and work for the government, that's one like.
And do a little bit of jail time.
Builds the story and the lore.
Okay, well, this was episode 4 of Building in the Trenches podcast. We had a great time chatting with you guys. I mean, we hung out a lot, gave you some great business ideas. And Trenchers, if you have any questions, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below. Any lasting comments, David?
Yeah, I mean, you guys always owe us for all of these beautiful conversations that we have. So if any of these were even entertaining, I think today was less actionable, but more so just talking about inspiring things that's currently happening, more about the current markets, and also giving us accountability, holding ourselves accountable. So hopefully you guys can hold yourself accountable. Leave something in the comments below. Comment something interesting. We take a look at every single comment. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you in the next one.
Let's go, baby.
Peace.
Let's do it.